top 5? I mean, do you know how hard it is to like think of just top 5? Oh, monster bass, let's go. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Monster Bass channel. I am Oklahoma's worst angler. Happy to be here, happy to be back, and talking about, again, something that's really hard for me to talk about is trying to decide what are my 5 favorite springtime baits. Pre-spawn, spawn, all the goodies of spring and the weather heating up and the fish getting freaking active. They're getting active, they're getting fired up. This is some of the most fun fishing during the springtime. I love it. I absolutely love it. You can catch some of the biggest bass of your life in the springtime, and you're going to get some of the most fired up bass in the springtime too. These fish have been waiting to eat. They're about to spawn. They have got so much fire in their veins that now's the time to get out and go catch them. So, the reason that this is so tough for me is because I love such a wide variety and assortment of baits. But I wanted to narrow it down to my top 5, especially to help you guys out and to showcase, in particular, baits that have come in the Monster Bass boxes or in the Monster Bass bag of the past and present. So, we're going to jump right into it. And the first thing that we're going to showcase here actually came in the tournament winning bag this month of March. And this is the casting jig. So the casting jig or a flipping jig. These are some of my absolute favorite baits to use. My favorite style of jig in particular. Now, sometimes I will put a craw trailer on there. Sometimes I'll put a creature trailer on there. Depending on what I'm doing, what I'm flipping. If it's going to be rock, I'm going to flip more of a craw. If it's going to be more grass, I like a little bit of a creature. Most of the time you're going to have a little more longer, skinnier appendages on a creature style bait, which is going to come through that grass just a little bit easier than, say, like the wide pinchers of a craw style bait. But the casting jig or the flipping jig. The jig is versatile all year round. The jig will get bit. Jig catches big. Okay? Remember that. Jigs equals bigs. So, casting jig, flipping jig. The jig is extremely versatile. Like I said, pitch this around wood, pitch this around rock, pitch it through grass, sand, anything like that. The jig is going to come through. But the jig, all year round, especially springtime, do not sleep on a jig. If you're not comfortable with a jig, get out there and throw one. There's only one way to figure it out. You got to get out there and you got to throw it. And you got to experiment. Try different trailers. Try different colors. Okay? I like to throw different colors too. Because a lot of time during the spring, even though they're really keyed up on red, they're going to be seeing a lot of red lures. So, I like to go with, kind of a bluegill profile. Or color. Not profile, but color. I like to go with a little more bluegill stuff. Especially here in Oklahoma. We've got a lot of bluegill. We got a lot of panfish. I like to give them something that's going to really irritate those bass and make them want to put this in their mouth and move it somewhere else. So, reds, bluegills, jigs. Sticking in the family of jigs, the vibrating jig or the chatterbait. This one right here, like I was just talking about, bluegill, we've got the almighty Thunder Cricket from Strike King. Now you can get these on the Monster Bass website. These have come in our Monster Bass boxes and bags of the past. But the Strike King Thunder Cricket chatterbait. This is a vibrating jig. This is something that is extremely versatile in grass and in open water. This is going to put off a lot of vibration. It's going to have a lot of flare from the skirt. And depending on the trailer that you put on there, you can use a paddle tail. You can use a craw. You can use a rage bug. You could use a rage tail menace. There's a lot of things that you can do and put on these guys to give them different kinds of action. Me personally, in the grass, I like to use a paddle tail. That's what I like to use on these. I used to be really big on using the twin tail grubs, putting them vertical. I've since switched over to using paddle tails. get a lot of success with it. But the vibrating jig, especially in grass, a little bit of tip for you on this guy right here. When you're fishing shallower water and you're fishing grass, say you're fishing from the bank, one of my tips to you guys with a vibrating jig is to keep your rod tip up, but keep your retrieve speed low. The reason you want to keep your rod tip up, if you start hitting that grass, all you've got to do is tick that rod up. And it's going to tick up over that grass, and it's not going to rip down and rip through it. If you have that rod tip down, you're keeping that down like this right here, and you start getting into grass, and you pull to the side like this, what you're going to deal with there is that exposed hook catching on grass. Sometimes it will rip out, and sometimes it can ruin a retrieve completely because you're going to have grass all stuck on that. So, me personally, that's one of my tips for you guys. Keep that rod tip up, keep that retrieve speed low, start hitting grass, tick it up. Tick it up like that, because a lot of the time when you tick that up and it starts to fall back down on that retrieve, that's when you're going to get that reaction bite, and that's when you can catch a big freaking fish. So, vibrating jig. The next bait is the almighty square bill. Okay, square bill is the workhorse of the hard baits. I mean, it's like the most generic, widely used hard bait that's out there is a square bill. These guys are going to run anywhere from 2 to 6 foot depths, depending on your line diameter, depending on the model that you've got as well. There are loud ones, there are silent ones as well. That's the line tie, just so you know. It's really silent. This is the KVD 1.5 in Ghost Craw. This also came in the tournament winning bag for March from MONSTERBASS. But the KVD Ghost Craw 1.5, square bills are meant to be covering water and power fished. I mean, turn and burn. Bomb that thing out there and burn that thing back. If you're running with some shallow water, burn this thing and just get it really just cranking through that grass, cranking through that gravel. Let this thing bang off of any kind of structure or anything like that. Now, if you're dealing with very thick grass, kind of the same concept that I just gave you with the vibrating jig. Keep your rod tip up. It's not going to dive as deep. When it starts ticking that grass, all you got to do, raise that rod tip up, and this guy's just going to come right over it. Okay? Or, the thing about square bills, especially the 1.5, it's got a great float. Now, what I mean by that is, say you're running into some structure and you're running into riprap or timber. Okay? You bang that down in there, and then it gets hung up. Instead of immediately setting that hook, just stop for a second. Just stop, because what this is going to do, it's going to bang up against that, and then it's going to back out. It doesn't float straight up. They back out. So it's going to get out of there, and then you can get right back to it. Don't always be so hasty to set the hook on a crankbait. These have got these trebles, these super sticky trebles on there, that a lot of time when that fish hits that, as long as you just lean into them or raise that rod tip up, kind of sweep, move with them, let your rod absorb a lot of that hook set, you're not going to rip these hooks out, and that fish is going to hook itself. Square bill. I like silent. I like silent ones because you think about it, a lot of people are throwing loud baits. I like to throw something a little bit different. I want to try and maximize my chances at getting a fish's attention who has seen multiple square bills come past its face, that maybe if I can throw something that's just a little bit quieter, it might get their attention a little bit more because they're getting the vibration from it, they're seeing it, and they're like, wait, that's a little bit different. That thing's not screaming at me. Let's go eat that. That's why I like the silent ones. Next. Now, this is one that I was not very comfortable with, but I've developed so much confidence in, and that is the almighty Lipless Crankbait. The Lipless. Now, the reason that I say this is one of my favorite baits for springtime is because we had a little bit of spring, and then we had a crazy freeze, and then we're back to spring again. Okay, so it's like we had our second winter is what we had here. But I've developed so much confidence in the Lipless Crankbait. The Lipless Crankbait is an absolute workhorse. This is one that you use to cover water. This is one that you can straight out cast, retrieve, burn it back. You can yo-yo it, okay? Meaning, when you bomb that thing out there, let your line just free spool for a little bit. And the reason I say free spool for a little bit, what you'll see me do sometimes is when I'm casting out there, I'm going to raise my rod tip up and just let that line kind of spool out. Because if you were to cast this out, so you cast it and then you stop that line, as soon as it hits the water, it stops that line, this bait is going to go like this. So you may not, even though you've got to the point where you want to cast, it's not going to go straight down to that strike zone that you were aiming for. It's going to sink back this way. It's going to pendulum back because there's no room, there's no slack in that line for it to go down. So if you're going to yo-yo it, do that. Bomb that thing out there. Raise that rod tip back with your spool still open. Let it sink straight down. Yo-yoing is very easy. It doesn't mean to do it fast. You got to figure out your cadence. I like to sit there, pull it up slow, reel it back. Pull it up slow, reel it back. Now come like real springtime like we've had lately, I'm going to be burning this thing. I'm going to be burning this, taking this across grass. Same concept, same tips that I gave you with the square bill, with the bladed jig. Keep these guys moving. You're going to get the reaction bites. A lot of the time though, when you're yo-yoing it, when you start having that pause, when it starts to fall back down, that's when that fish is going to hit, and that's when you're going to catch a good one. So, Lipless Crankbait, absolute workhorse, one of my favorites. Now, when it comes down to the last one, number 5, I couldn't pick just one. I'm sorry. Guys, I'm sorry. I know. You can say I lied to you. It's all, well, it's for the betterment of all of us, okay? Topwater. Topwater. And how do you choose between a walking style bait and a frog? How do you do that? I can't do it. I can't do it. Now, I guess I kind of can. My favorite is the frog. I absolutely love frogging. But there's some of you guys out there that are not comfortable with frogs, or there's no reason for you to throw frogs because you've got a ton of open water. You don't have a lot of cover. You can still throw frogs in open water, but a lot of the time in the open water, those walking style baits and those poppers are going to do you a lot better. Now this is the Cotton Cordell pencil popper. This is the Hendrix Frog that we've gotten in Monster Bass bags and boxes of the past. So the frog is obviously going to excel in that heavier cover. You've got those hooks that are well protected by the body. You've got keel-shaped bodies. Now all frogs, there's different keel-shaped bodies. There's popping style frogs. But the main thing is those hooks are weedless. So you can throw these frogs back in the thickest of stuff. And I'm a firm believer that the big girls really like to hide back in that heavy cover where they feel safe and they've got great ambush points. That's why I really prefer the frog. However, while the frog is probably the most exhilarating topwater bite in my opinion, there is something about an open water bite on a popper or a spook style bait where they just come out of nowhere and they destroy these things. Now, here's something that I want to tell you guys, especially when it comes to your spook style, your popper style baits in open water. A lot of the time, if you go from fishing a frog to fishing this guy, what you're going to see yourself doing is setting that hook extremely hard, just like you were fishing the frog. You're going to be ripping those trebles out, okay? When they came up, or when those fish come up and they hit this thing, sweep. Sweep your rod. Sweep your rod to the side and just go with it. Let that rod get that parabolic bend. It will load, and those hooks will stick straight in that fish's mouth. A lot of the time, though, if you're setting too hard, that's where you're going to find yourself missing those strikes on open water with treble hook baits. So when they hit that, they hit, sweep. That's it. I can almost guarantee you that your hookup ratio is going to go through the roof. If we were over on my channel, I would guarantee you, because then you can yell at me. But I can almost guarantee on here because I don't want you to yell at Monster Bass. You want to yell at somebody, go yell at me. Go yell at me on my channel. I'll put a link down here in the description for you. But topwater in spring, honestly, if I could topwater all year round, I would be a very, very happy man. I'm a very happy man anyways, but, I'd be a lot happier. Florida guys, guys down south that can, fish open water, top water all year round, I tip my hat to you. I'm jealous of you. But, guys, those are my top 5 favorite baits for springtime fishing. I hope this video helped you out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I'll leave a link for my channel down in the description. If you're not already, subscribe to Monster Bass. Hit the subscribe button. It's just right down there. Give this video a thumbs up. Drop a comment down below. Let us know what you think about it. And I will catch you guys next time we're on the water.